Ruth Benedict's patterns of culture. First of all, tell me, from your understanding, what primarily is this school about culture and personality? Culture and personality. What do you think is the primary nature of investigation under this school? What is it that these people are concerned about? What is the
While
primary?
while studying a particular society, we'll have to include their culture or give more importance to their culture, because every society's culture is unique, and we should look from their point of view, from that culture's point of view.
That's what cultural relativism is. We are asking what is the main theme in this culture and personality? Why is it called culture and personality school? So what is the difference between culture and what is the difference and personality?
Culture is all the members of the society. Personality is
Use
individual.
of internet. Culture or personality?
Culture.
Culture. Okay. Hairstyle of a person.
Personal.
Personality. In general, women grow hair and men cut. What is that?
That's culture.
That's culture. So culture is about society. Society refers to group of people, and the way they lead their life is culture. Society refers to group, refers to people. Culture refers to lifestyle. Okay. So distinct culture. A society may have a distinct culture. Society is about the people and culture is about the way they live. Hairstyle is culture. So both society and culture are about group aspects, collective aspects, collectivity. It's about the group. Okay. Whereas personality is about the individual. Is about the individual. Personality is about the individual. It is about the group. What anthropologists have done under this school is, what is the impact of this on this is the issue. What is the impact of culture on personality? Or how does the society shape personality? And more specifically, coming to personality, personality is not simply individual. They are distinctive patterns of individuality. Distinctive pattern is personality. For example, your specs don't constitute personality. Okay. But on the whole, if you are behaving in a particular way, for example, introversion, extroversion, honesty, okay, insecurity, things like that constitute personality. So personality is a kind of set of characteristics, set of traits that are unique to a person. What is your personality? In the end, we have personality test. What are you like? What are your reactions? What are your values? What are your attitudes? Okay, all that is personality. So, to what extent culture influences personality? That is to say, what is the link between the collectivity and the individual? This is collectivity and this is individual. The links between the collectivity and the individual are explored under this school. So it's completely different from evolutionism or diffusionism or historical particularism. This is a different thing. This is about culture and the individual. Okay. I'll give you one hypothetical question. Just let us see how we discuss. Can you tell me each caste will have a personality? For example, when somebody says, this fellow, I can make out that this fellow is Kama. Tell me, do you think there is some truth in that statement? If you think so, why is it so and it is false?
So might be correct.
It might be correct. Okay. What do you think are the features? I mean, from your impressions, not that we don't have any studies on caste and personality.
So let's say there's some X and Y Z caste, and which is affluent, which has been affluent. So someone which has a good background is definite to, I mean, I might be generalizing in a wrong way, but it might happen that they don't value some basic, like the respect given to food and the resources the way we do. So
They don't value what?
the resources the way we do, like because they have already been rich, so they don't value food the way we value. They waste food, and I mean some small issues in there.
You are saying about rich people. You are saying rich people will have that.
Sir,
But just one second, let him complete. Can we say that caste, comma? You are saying that. I mean, will caste have a personality? Because this is what people say. I mean, this is what you are.
Of
You
course,
are saying they are more likely to waste certain things.
I mean, I'm just associating caste with the affluent, the way they.
Affluence.
But another example could be that if someone is from not so good caste,
Hmm.
and he has certain way of, the parents have molded him in a certain way
Hmm.
to follow these norms, that you cannot go in that place because that is restricted for us. So that person won't go. That is one form of personality. And the person, even if he wants to go, he will feel that no, my parents have told me not to do that, so I won't be doing that. So others will feel that okay, he's behaving such and such way, so he must be something like that.
You mean which? You mean talking about upper caste or lower caste? Upper caste not able to go to
No, lower caste, sir.
untouchable colony.
Lower caste, sir.
Lower caste not going to upper caste colony.
Because their parents have told them. So he is molded that way, and
That's true, but not going out is not a personality trait, right? You should finally link it to some kind of a personality trait. If you are saying they are likely to feel inferior, then that would be a personality trait. If you say they don't go to that place, that's not a personality trait. You may not go to US, that's not personality trait. If you have. Hmm.
okay. So another example would be, let's say, if someone is from a lower caste, so any expression from, let's say, someone might be considered a threat, which otherwise, if someone is not from that lower caste, won't find it as a threat.
You
Let's say,
mean sense of insecurity will be there in lower caste.
right? Yeah, it depends type of thing. Like he might take it as an offense, which actually is not an offense if we see objectively, but that might happen.
You mean inferiority may be a part of lower caste.
Right.
And correspondingly in higher caste?
That would be superiority.
sir, at least in
Just,
South
just
India,
one second. Just one second. So domination from the upper caste and the inferiority from the lower caste.
Yeah, because that is like,
But
uh,
how is that? How does finally caste communicate that personality? If that is true.
because that is what the person has been in that environment from the childhood.
So socialization. That's called socialization, isn't it? So you are saying culture leads to particular personality because of socialization. Okay. So culture socializes individuals in a particular way, and finally creates personality. Remember, personality is about certain important traits, and the culture is about a group. But then, Sunil, so you think it is obvious that the culture creates a personality? I mean,
Yeah, the wherever the person is situated, it has a huge influence.
you are saying, okay, let us look at this. Influence is one or determines. Determines. What is your choice? It influences or it determines.
It influences, and it
Determines
might be.
means it is settled. Influences means it gives a push in that direction. What finally a person becomes difficult to say.
That is an influences. I would go with influence.
Determines. You will go by influence.
Yeah.
If you go by influence, which means there is a variation across persons. Not
Right.
all Kama people speak do it in the same way,
Right.
isn't it? So there is a variation. So you are saying that the culture or society influences because of socialization, but this socialization can never be perfect. There will be an individual variation, isn't it?
Right. So.
And groups differ, and so their cultures differ. In fact, you are talking about within a society, class and caste. But if you think class and caste determine socialization, then definitely society also determines. American society will be different from Indian society, isn't it? Because class and caste are only a part of the society. If there can be class and caste differences within a society, definitely then society's influence will be much more than caste influence in a society, isn't it so?
Right.
So surely a Chinsu will be different from a Ho or a Naga, isn't it?
Right. So.
But within Nagas, there will be variation. Within Chinsus, there will be variation. So what you're understanding is that society or culture socializes people into certain personalities, but that socialization will not produce just one type, and there will be individual variation. Is that agreeable? Now,
Yes,
Vishal,
sir.
what do you want to say?
So I was trying to give a few more examples. In South, uh, usually, does skin color come under personality? So usually, where in Vijayawada around, I have seen people associate people with fairer skin with upper caste, and say if somebody from a if who is a dark skinned Christian is almost always associated with a lower caste.
Hmm.
And again, in the North India, it's something like, say, somebody who is a bit of who doesn't spend a lot of money and all, usko baniya types, they kind of say, ye to baniya hi hoga, because they are mostly focused on saving money. So, and again, in more Rayalaseema area, people wear uh, white clothes and all, or even in South, who wear white clothes may be associated with the Reddys. And
So basically, society or culture shapes a personality, isn't it?
hmm.
So this is our understanding. But now come to this question: patterns of culture. Ruth Benedict. Explain Ruth Benedict's patterns of culture. Okay. Ruth Benedict's patterns of culture is somewhat different from what we discussed. She doesn't disagree with what we discussed, but she is saying something more than this. She is saying, see, we discussed how culture shapes personality, but she is saying culture itself has a personality. culture itself has a personality. That's what is meant by patterns of culture. Culture has a pattern. I mean, not that it is completely different, but she's saying it differently. Okay. So it has a pattern, culture has a pattern, and that pattern leads to a particular personality. P1, P2, P3, like this. C1 will produce P1, C2 will produce P2, C3 will produce P3. Not only that P1, P2, P3, but cultures are C1, C2, C3. That's what is meant by culture has a pattern. Culture has a pattern. And that pattern is reproduced in personalities. Which means, and also what does pattern mean? Pattern assumes culture is integrated. Pattern can't come when there is no integration. Culture is integrated. Various elements are integrated. So that's what pattern is. So Ruth Benedict got this idea. Culture has a pattern, and then that culture is producing a particular personality. Which means basically culture produces something. So tell me under this, who is a person who is odd? Who will be an odd person in C1? Somebody like P2, isn't it? Odd person in C2, somebody like P1. Okay, so culture has a pattern and it produces a personality. So this is the theme of patterns of culture. She went by three cultures and saw three patterns. One is very dominant, another is cooperative, and another is very insecure. Very insecure. Okay. But then the people who have gone through her work found that there is some exaggeration, because surely there would be, for a culture to say that there is a pattern, maybe some kind of exaggeration is needed. I mean, people, there can be more diversity rather than more than what she thought. Okay, so this is what is patterns of culture. So pay attention to the examples and what kind of pattern they produced and which they did. Zuni, Kwakwi, and Debonos of Malaysia. Okay. So that's about pattern of culture. Is it clear? And fill these details. Okay.
What
What
were
will
the
be
three?
the contemporary dimension to this? For example, if there is a pattern of culture, okay, what Vishal, you want to say something?
So what were the three patterns that you mentioned? Aggressive?
One is aggressive, another is cooperative. She called it, in one it is, um, in one she called Dionysian pattern, cooperative, ambitious and striving, Dionysian, and another is cooperative, Apollonian, and then another is paranoid in Debuans of Malaysia. Okay, so that's what she did. Now let us look at if this is extended to a national level. Now tell me, what do you understand by national character, and illustrate the concept? So tell me, what is the assumption in this idea of national character? For example, is there something like Indian character and Pakistani character?
Yes.
What is that? What is Pakistani character? They're very aggressive.
No, not that. Sir, so I would take it as the character would be they are I mean they are firstly they're non-vegetarians, most of them.
Non-vegetarianism, that's just a food habit.
Sir, when we talk at the
Unless
national level,
unless you want to say people who eat non-vegetarian are aggressive. I don't think you can take that statement. Non-vegetarian. Just let who wants to complete? Sunil, you want to complete?
Vishal, you can go on.
Vishal, please come. Continue.
So when we talk about nation level, do we talk
what is your idea of Pakistan character?
Sir, when I talk about Pakistan, I would link it with the government that is ruling. So, so my question was, when we talk about nation, should we talk about the people or the government that's in?
We have to talk about the people. National character is about the character of a citizen within a nation.
So,
just one second. So, Vishal, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
It is not about the government.
That way, I think both are same. India and Pakistan must seem similar to me.
How can they be same when two people have separated so many years ago and then after so much of hatred and bloodshed?
But they have been together for many years as well.
And when they were together, they were quarreling. Anyway, do you think Hindu character and Muslim character are one and the same?
No, not really.
Then Pakistani character and Indian character will be different.
When we look at it that way, yeah.
Then, isn't it?
Yes.
Or you don't think religion shapes character?
Religion does shape it. Yeah.
Sweta, you want to say something?
I was also saying about religion.
Religion.
In Pakistan, we have in Pakistan, we have Muslim.
Can you tell me who has this attitude that they are great fighters and they can win against many people? Hindus or Muslims?
I think Muslim.
Both.
Both.
No, Hindus don't have that feeling. In fact, that is the aim of RSS. Muslims are confident and Hindus don't. And to bring that masculinity. That is why how does RSS man look like? What is his dress? Khaki dress. And now they went for pants, of course. And a ladi, exercise. Bring that masculinity to Hinduism. Why should they? Because Muslims have been like that. Muslims are fighters. Hindus don't have that notion that they are fighters. So definitely religion plays an important role. Religion does play an important role. So when religion plays an important role and when a particular state becomes more theocratic or religious, definitely it shapes character, isn't it? Our problem with this is that is it that Indians have a peculiar view of Pakistanis and Pakistanis have a peculiar view of Indians, and that leads to a lot of wrong assessment of character. Is that true? Yes or no?
I feel it is true.
That is also true. So we may need to go by certain objective studies. Not Indians' version of Pakistanis and Pakistanis' version of Indians. Okay. But definitely, I think there is some truth to the idea of national character. I think there is some truth regarding a group giving a personality. Because after all, what is socialization if it is not shaping personality? I think that is too obvious. It is about how much of variation is there across personalities is the issue. if socialization is an issue, is an important aspect, definitely culture must be producing personality. So there must be caste personality, there must be uh, regional consciousness. Even, for example, Tamil Nadu people are more likely to feel about this is our land, isn't it? Have you seen any Tamil movie where a hero is not proud of his Tamil? Isn't it? So, national character must be true. It is simply a matter of there is a lot of scope for prejudice. I'll tell you one case of China. You know, Indians have the view that Chinese are very aggressive. Don't you think so? Indians have the view they are so soft and so nice. They are peace-loving people. Okay. And Chinese came here and then war and they are aggressive. Is it not Indians' impression of Chinese? Yes or no? Or you think why
Of
impression
late
it
they
is a
have,
fact? Huh?
of late it has become a view,
Of late it has become
that they are aggressive.
who Indians are aggressive.
No, Chinese are
Chinese
aggressive.
are aggressive.
We
Oh,
have that view.
we have that view. And let me tell
Even
you,
US world
no,
powers
just
also
let us
feel.
take India and China. Do you know Chinese have the view that others are aggressive? They are very soft people. Indians may be shocked, but actually there is enough historical evidence to know why Chinese feel that way. Because Chinese have been assaulted so many times till that 1945 plus 49. Japanese invaded them, other countries invaded. They were, Britain played havoc with them in opium wars. So many people exploited, many rapes conducted on their women. Their state was not strong. But from 1949, things changed. And before 1949, a lot of their territory was taken by others. So they think that they were at one time great, and after that, during when they were weak, others have taken their land. That is the reason they think that they have border disputes with many countries, because when they were weak, others took away the land. And they suffered so much. Whereas Indian version of Chinese starts with 1962. So they think that Chinese are aggressive. And then Indians find that Chinese have border disputes with so many countries, and so they must be aggressive. Whereas Chinese think it was their land taken away by others when they were very weak. So which means Indian assessment of Chinese national character is different from Chinese assessment of Indian character. So national character, the idea of national character can give rise to a lot of prejudice. But would there be a national character? I think there, because if you assume that the socialization plays a role, how can there not be a national character? It is a matter of what can be the level of differences within the personalities or across personalities. Vishal, you want to say something?
I was just saying, uh, just that these days, even the world over, other major powers also portrayed that
China is
China is the aggressor.
aggressive. Yes, exactly. Okay. So,
So,
whereas in this study in anthropology, what happened was that they made a Japanese national character study of Japanese, and they thought that Japanese were very repressed in their toilet training practices, and that's why they were becoming very aggressive in a wartime, because that's what they did in Second World War. And there are also studies on Russian character. Russian children were tied like this in clothes, swaddled. So they thought that the Russians were developing particular kind of personality. But later it was found that they were more a result of prejudice rather than valid. Okay. But it does not mean there is nothing like national character. You can just give those studies and then say they turned out to be prejudices. But then there are other studies also. So this is about national character. Okay. So objective studies can be made, but paying attention to the enormous variation. But as long as we agree that socialization plays a role, then definitely there must be some kind of group influencing the character. Okay. Any
So,
questions, Vishal?
so one more thing. Let's say the current scenario where people across, I mean, the countries across the world, the way they look India as a soft power, and they have a deeper reach and understanding. So it's again a national character, right?
Then that's true. National character. Definitely, national character of India is changing. For example, I think now people are less worried about saying that we are money minded. Money mindedness, I think, is increasing. Materialism is increasing.
But so the country as a standout, if we just say the country is separated, then so overall, if we see the Indian posture is positive, right?
Positive towards what?
Positive in the minds of other countries.
We need to look at what is positive. I think if you are thinking in terms of narrow economic growth, then Indians became more confident and others have positive view. But why should economic growth be the criteria?
Okay, sir. Okay.
It's like that. When the world thinks of India, they think of Gandhi and Buddha and Vedas and things like that, not economic growth and power. That was the traditional image. Okay. When we are becoming economically powerful and accumulating nuclear weapons, I think we have become more of a nuisance to the world. I don't think it's a positive image. Okay. So India carried the traditional image till Gandhi's times, but after that, I don't think it has really much to say, except that we remained democratic enough. Okay. Now, take a broader question. Discuss the relationship between culture and personality. Tell me, what is Margaret Mead's role in this? What did she do? What did Margaret Mead do?
She surveyed Samoa.
She went to Samoa, surveyed Samoa, and then why does she come under culture and personality school?
Because she concluded from her survey that since in that society Samoa, the adolescents were not restricted in whatever was happening. So
They were not
pre
anxiety free,
premarital sex
stress
was, yeah,
free, whereas it was assumed that adolescence would give rise to stress. Adolescence will give rise to stress. Tell me, is it a biological fact or a cultural fact if one is saying that?
cultural.
No, no. Adolescence give rise to adolescence. Adolescence as such.
Okay, as such, then it is biological.
Exactly, biological. So people in America believed that it is in the nature of adolescence that gives rise to conflict and stress. Whereas French Bose thought it was a cultural phenomenon. So it was with that understanding, this young woman, girl, went to Samoa and found that girls there were carefree, stress free, and all kinds of sexual relations, homosexuality, heterosexuality, all kinds of things, and illegitimate children. And so, she was an American and Christian, and there it was a simple society far off. And she was shocked. And there she understood that adolescence leading to stress is not inevitable. It depends upon the culture. which means culture is influencing the personality. So stress is being created by the culture. Tell me, what is your understanding of what is happening in India? Or if you know about Telugu states, what is happening to stress among the youth? Increasing or decreasing?
Increasing.
Hugely increasing. And when does the stress begin? More specifically around what time, which class?
Sharma ji ka beta around 9th and 10th.
8th class. Ramaya.
Yeah.
Before Ramaya, Sharma. Has anybody come to give tuition to pass the entrance examination of at Sharma? Entrance to 8th class coaching at IIT. Stress levels are increased. Okay. That is why you have people, even if they are getting second rank, they are so upset. Why? Because they missed first rank. If a person makes it 200 rank in civil service, he's not happy, he's crying, oh, I missed IAS. So this is culture. In fact, one perceptible change that we have seen in our own lifetime is that at one time, most students were not studying. For example, in our class, only 2-3 people would study. And of course, you can guess I was one among them. Most people took me as some kind of an odd person, that's all. But now, students compete. And then even in our intermediate, I mean, even at one stage that if some people are studying and they had a good relationship with others, there was not like envy, hatred, rivalry. They were not there really. It may surprise to you now. How can there not be rivalry and competition? Because we didn't think academic performance is the sole thing. And parents were not so much concerned. Now everybody is concerned. Parents are desperate. All of them are devil possessed. Monitoring each mark. You know why students prefer hostels rather than homes? Because warden to student ratio is very high at home. 2 wardens and 1 child. Mother and father and 1 child, 2 wardens. Whereas in a hostel, maybe 40-50 students and 1 warden. Hostels have become better off. So this is obvious. But then at that time, people were knowing. So when this girl went there and then studied and wrote a book, not only that adolescents don't have stress, but the kind of sexual life, free sex, liberal attitude, Americans were shocked. Instead of submitting her research as a PhD, so they did not make any field visits. For example, Fraser wrote a great book, Golden Bow. What is the data from his studies only? Most of the studies, studying. There was nothing like going out to do the fieldwork. So fieldwork tradition started in a serious way from Malinowski. And more specifically, participant observation. Why was it called participant observation? He was there participating and observing, writing down in his diary, and then done in the natives language. So natives language, staying there and writing. So this became distinctive to anthropology. Native language. Participant observation. Participant observation. Okay. And then going out, other culture, distant culture. This became what you can say, defining feature of anthropology. Anthropology means going out of one's own society, distant culture, staying there, participant observation, not even native language. So, anthropology is about the study of the exotic, primitive. Okay. So, no one will be an anthropologist without doing this kind of fieldwork. That has been the tradition in anthropology. So, minimum an anthropologist does one fieldwork, and then when he is doing a fieldwork, he writes notes, and then that becomes what is called ethnography. Ethnography. So, writing a detailed note of a culture, of a society, is ethnography. And after he comes back, he compares his notes with others. Then he may arrive at certain generalizations. That is called ethnology. Ethnography, ethnology. Some generalizations. Polyandry exists in these societies. That is ethnology. Okay. Matrilineal exists under these societies. That is ethnology, which means anthropologists contribute to ethnographic knowledge, and from ethnographic knowledge, ethnology is generated. And then some of them are talented enough to become theorists. Theorists are the people who propose a particular view of society, a way to study, a method, a orientation, all kinds of things. So whom are we studying? We are studying anthropological thinkers, anthropological theories, who passed this stage. And theories can be divided into certain schools. Evolutionism, diffusionism, culture and personality, interpretative approach, structuralism. So this is how anthropology started. First, armchair theorizing, and next, fieldwork. Malinowski started it accidentally, but actually Malinowski had physics background, and he was always interested in doing this work scientifically. And in the Trobriand Islanders, when he was living among the Trobriand Islanders, he was told that some ceremony was a very serious and solemn occasion. And then, whereas when he observed, people were very frivolous and people were having fun. Malinowski thought if something like a question was asked through a questionnaire, they would have answered differently. But then the actual thing is different. So Malinowski understood the data that you are getting from questionnaires is not accurate. So he thought that method should be scientific to arrive at scientific observations. Okay. So whatever the natives say is not true. Part of it is true. Part of it is false. So you cannot go by only what they say. You can go by what they say, but you also have to observe. And then if you are observing only as an outsider, you may have only limited understanding. On the other hand, if you take part in their activities, then your experience will be different. For example, Malinowski took part in Kula expedition. He was so terrified of that experience. Okay, and then he would talk and spend time, did all kinds of things. So he would participate and keep asking. Through participation, he would understand how things were going on. So this became tradition in anthropology. This is the fieldwork tradition. Okay. So normally one person goes and then spends like this and comes back, contributes to ethnology, and later, often, some people go even to the second field visit. Margaret Mead went, for example. So, but next time when they go for second time, they may spend less time because they are already familiar with fieldwork practices and They are already familiar with doing something exotic. So this is how anthropology developed. So this is fieldwork tradition. And this is how other disciplines like sociology is different. Because in sociology, the tradition is not going to the exotic place. Sociologist is coming from complex society and he studies his own society. Another thing about anthropology is that it is about complex, so person from complex society is going to study simple society like this. It means anthropology is study of the other. Study of the other. There is another aspect of anthropology. It's always about the other. Okay. But in the context of India, what happened was that India is such a diverse and such a complex nation that there are extremely simple groups and highly complex societies. So in India, Indian anthropologist doesn't have to go outside India. It is enough if he goes and spends time with a tribe in India. Then he becomes an anthropologist. But otherwise, in Western countries, he has to go out, go to Africa or Asia to become an anthropologist. Whereas in India, because there are enough number of simple societies, Indian anthropologists could go. And sometimes Indian anthropologists can go to village and stay. For example, Andrew Whitley is staying in Tamil Nadu village. So essentially, anthropology is about the study of the other and person from complex society studying a simple society, which means he will have his own biases. Okay, and because he has many biases, a lot of theorizing is about how to study the other, how to study what kind of methods, what may be the errors, what is the source of biases and prejudices, all kinds of thinking was part of anthropological thought. Because the complex thing here is that somebody from a complex society is going there, living in a simple society without knowing any language, and try to figure out what is that about. That is what anthropology. But as of now, anthropology is not confined only to that. Why? Because so many simple societies have become part of complex societies. So in that way, the subject matter of anthropology, you can say, is shrinking. Why? Because many simple societies are becoming part of complex societies. And then, but there are more number of anthropologists. So anthropology is changing to the extent that an anthropologist also started studying something of one's own society, but going to somewhat different group or association. For example, an anthropologist can join a betting society or a betting society and study its methods. Okay, or a city dweller or a person from an affluent class can go to a slum and then the study slum life. That also is anthropology. So sometimes the subjects of study are merging between anthropology and sociology. Otherwise, sociology is about one's own and anthropology is about the other. So because of this complexity and class and stratification, so when one can also study one's own society with some distance and become an anthropologist. Okay. So this is what the fieldwork tradition is. But the question is, if somebody does the fieldwork, how accurate is the finding? How accurate is the description of a person? Okay, so that controversy came in the context of Margaret Mead's work. Okay, can you tell me what is the controversy that Margaret Mead produced?
So there was a person who said that Margaret Mead, who criticized Margaret Mead's work, and he said that the people there were just joking and they were not serious in their
Some of
approach.
them were joking and not serious, and this lady took it seriously. And then, so according to him, they were having stress and they had their problems. And then Mead only saw what she wanted to see. She went with a hypothesis, and that her hypothesis was confirmed. That is, she already had an idea that the stress is produced by culture, and so she only confirmed That was the serious objection, and then 2 serious books were written on that. Okay, but now, how is that controversy seen now? Who is the person who wrote critically of Mead? Derek Freeman. Derek Freeman. So you can write about the making and unmaking of an anthropological myth. Okay, and then another book, The Fateful Hoaxing of Margaret Mead, a historical analysis of her Samoan research. Why I took this example is that this can be taken as an example of limitation of fieldwork. Okay. And then you can go with this conclusion of Paul Shankman, who finally said there is some truth in Derek Freeman's account, but highly exaggerated. And meanwhile, things changed, because by the time Derek went, it became Christian, a lot of Christian influence, and Christianity means guilt and sexual morality was different. And also, Mead was interacting with girls, and Derek was interacting with adult males. So the view would be different. And then some exaggeration by both, exaggeration by Mead and counter exaggeration by Derek. Okay. But rare is the case where a person studies one group, one society, and then after decades, somebody else goes and comes out with a contradictory report, and that becomes a controversy. So that's what happened. So, what does it say about the nature of fieldwork from this debate?
It's highly subjective.
It can be subjective. It can be subjective. So, it depends upon who is studying, it depends upon who are the informants, and also theoretical bias of the researcher. Theoretical bias of the researcher. Okay. And definitely woman's view maybe will be different from man's view. That is another thing. Derek will not get the data that Margaret Mead can get. It is not possible, isn't it? Woman's world is different from man's world. Okay. So that is another. So one has to look into these things. So go through another question. Describe the evolution of fieldwork traditions in anthropology. So what would be your framework? Evolution of fieldwork tradition. Tell me what all you will write.
So we'll talk about the armchair theorist first
Which
of all.
school is that?
Classical evolution.
So you will write about classical evolutionism next.
Diffusionism.
And next,
And we'll come to Apnaiye.
how about historical particularism?
That is also armchair.
Why is it so? Because historical particularism predict that you are making sweeping generalizations, so you study in detail. That is one important point, isn't it?
Yeah.
So this is about how, without fieldwork, the data is not accurate. Okay. And then the fieldwork traditions came. And then when did participant observation come?
Malinowski.
And then problems with fieldwork?
Margaret Mead.
And let me tell you, once we cover other thinkers, you will include them also. That's what fieldwork tradition in anthropology. Okay. So you will use entire thought. Okay. Suppose now I ask you this question, theory and fact. So what will you write? Take this question. Theory and fact.
Shall we talk about the cultural classical evolutionist, how they theorize?
Exactly. How theory could be wrong because facts are wrong. That is one dimension. Next.
And we can talk about Franz Boas, who stressed too much on the facts
And no theory.
and no theory.
Okay. Margaret Mead,
We can say that facts
a particular hypothesis
could add into.
may mislead you. I mean, if to the extent she is wrong. Okay. Which means theory can color your facts and your assessment. Theory can color. Theory can prejudice you. Okay. So the point is, for every question, you can look at the history of thought and use it as examples and derive and evolve your answer. Is
Sir,
it clear?
Sir, Malinowski went and he collected facts and then theorized, right?
No, Malinowski did. Malinowski collected facts and then theorized. In fact, Malinowski is very weak in theorizing. Malinowski is good at fieldwork. Try this. Discuss the advantages and limitations of participant observation as a technique of data collection. Advantages and limitations of participant observation as technique of data collection. Tell me, can you study everything as a participant observant?
No.
What are the things that you can never study as a participant observant?
The reason for the culture, whatever they are following.
No, can there be certain things which you can never study as a participant observant?
Probably some
Can you
intimate.
study terrorism? You can't be terrorist to study terrorism, right? Illegal behavior, criminal behavior. Okay. Factionalism, violence. So there are many activities which are illegal. Okay. Or things like prostitution, network. There cannot be participant observation. That is number one. Number two, sometimes you will not be even allowed to participate, even if you want to. Okay. And then problems in participant observation. Tell me, who is the first person who gave a very good record of problems in participant observation?
Malinowski.
Malinowski. Look at his frustration expressed in his diaries. It's a culture shock. So there are many limitations like that. And in fact, his diaries show that he hated them so much at many places. Okay. So, I mean, surviving, if it is a remote culture, surviving that that physical ambience, new habits, surviving food, and there are so many issues. But anyway, that would be the most challenging thing to an anthropologist, going to an exotic land and living with them for a year or certain months. That is the most important thing for an anthropologist. Okay, like for an IAS officer, collectorship. For an anthropologist, fieldwork in a remote land. That is the most important thing. So that is the thing. There are problems, health issues, relationship issues, loneliness. These are the issues, and sometimes you are not allowed. What would be the advantages? Advantages would be, after all, you will have your first-hand data. Okay, you would experience a cultural shock and more likely to look at things objectively. Okay, so that is the limitation. And then you can here you write about again Margaret Mead and Malinowski. So you can use Malinowski and Margaret Mead in many questions, in any question on fieldwork. This is what started with Malinowski, and this is what Margaret Mead did. And let me tell you, later you will add other thinkers to this question. So fieldwork tradition is a question on thought. I will discuss caste methods differently. So tell me, is the approach clear to you? Now, syllabus mentioned these three more thinkers, Cora Du Bois and Rolf Linder and Abram Gardiner. So let us do briefly Gardiner. You just need to know basic points because it is not likely they will ask a separate question, but when you are writing in general on culture and personality, you can mention these thinkers. Gardiner. Gardner applied Freudian scheme to understand society. He said, see, Freud idea is that toilet training influences personality. This is Freud's idea. This is Freud. What Gardner did was he used this understanding to look at the institutions of the culture. He said, in society, there are primary institutions, and then some personality is created, and then out of this personality, secondary institutions are created. That personality is called basic personality. Basic personality structure. So if there is a question on basic personality, then it's about Gardner. Please pay attention to the words. So Freud said toilet training leads to particular toilet training gives rise to personality. He used this understanding to say there are some primary institutions that deal with how child is trained. Sorry, maybe you are not able to see. Primary, basic, and secondary. Let me write. Primary, personality, and the secondary institutions. Okay. So which means, see what he is doing is look at differently. He is saying indirectly how culture is integrated. Culture is integrated through personality structure. This is another way of looking at it. So, in fact, that's what I mean. That is a different way of looking at our discussion. We said that this is how people are socialized from 8th class to this. Then you said, then aren't they free? I said, no, they are not free. Then they are producing some kind of a culture. So being treated from 8th class to this, they have certain personality, and those personalities will create some other kinds of structures, which means the secondary institutions and the primary institutions are interlinked.
I didn't get it.
No, in our discussion, we said that this is how children are socialized. Then you said, sir, children are socialized like this, but after that they are free. I said they are not really free. They are behaving in a particular way. Loss of patience, loss of love, loss of relationship. Okay, and then this is the consequence of this kind of personality. Which means, in a similar way, primary institutions create a particular personality, and these personalities produce certain secondary institutions. Okay. For example, the children who are tortured for so long, will they not be materialistic? Difficult. They worked so much. Okay, so they want to prove, they have to show. So And in fact, the quality of entertainment also will depend upon what kind of people we are. Okay, take for example movies. Are movies showing anything like sadness, patience? I don't think so. For example, do people can watch tragedies now? I don't know if you notice this difference. Don't you think it is very cheap and quick entertainment? Yes or no?
Tragedies, we have movies and
How many? It's very rare. What are the tragedies? Unless the movie itself becomes a tragedy. Or anyway, if you want, you see old movie and the present movie. Watching old movie requires patience, not simply from technology point of view, but the pace, thinking.
I observed that in Godfather you have to wait till 1 hour to get the climax.
There is a difference. Now, I think the patience levels have come down. And now you are watching a generation which can't sit for 5 minutes without doing something. So what kind of institutions will they create when they grow up? Definitely institutions that are tuned to their personality. So Gardner is looking at interlinkages across institutions through the variable of personality. That's what he's doing. This is another way of culture and personality. This is functionalism. Many schools are combined here. This is functionalism as well as culture and personality and Freudian. So people who are brought up in this way will create this kind of society. For example, won't there be more old age homes? Yes or no? Obviously, old age homes will come under secondary institutions. Why? Because people will be working harder and harder. They'll be very busy. So definitely they won't have time to spend with their elderly parents, elderly people. So there will be some specialized structures for that. I'm not saying whether it is right or wrong, but we're saying these are all interlinked processes first. So Gardner looked at the interlinkages through basic personality. And then you have another one woman, Cora Du Bois. Cora Du Bois found in her study of a particular culture, there is Aloris society. Aloris society. She got the data of three sources: biographies, dreams, and children's drawings. Biographies, dreams, and children's drawings. Three data she gave to three experts, and all of them came with one description, what she called modal personality. Modal personality. So modal personality is the theoretical basis for national character. Modal. Modal is not the same thing as model, M-O-D-E-L. Modal is about median mode. This is mode. Mode means most frequent. So she arrived at this concept of modal personality through some data being given to experts and experts working independently, called working blind. So in a way, if we want to find out Japanese character, national character, maybe this is the method. It is not Indian views of Pakistanis, Pakistanis views of Indians, or Indians views of Chinese, no. So something like modal character method can be used to arrive at objectively what may be national character. Modal, M-O-D-A-L. So which means get diverse data and give the data to experts and try to find out, arrive it. So national character also can be arrived at. Next one thinker, Ralph Linton. Rolf Linton. All these thinkers' names are mentioned in the syllabus. Rolf Linton. Rolf Linton did one kind of an idea. He said there is something like central personality, and then over that there is a superficial personality. Superficial means, and then over this there is culture. He tried to, or central organization, he called it central organization, superficial organization, and culture. See, what he wanted was, he was trying to link culture with the personality. So he looked at personality itself at two levels. One central, above superficial, and above culture. In our discussion of Kamma people will have culture, Kamma culture. Kamma culture will influence maybe some kind of arrogance, authority, they are subjected to. But then within each person, there is something unique. So there is something unique to him. Okay. So culture will influence superficial, superficial will influence central. This is how culture is linked to central. But then the people can differ in terms of central and some difference in superficial. Okay. So when we say not all Kamma people behave in the same way, it is because their central organizations are different. So he is looking at levels. Okay. And sometimes one may have a personality of something and one may be doing a particular job not at all connected to him. So which he called status personality. Status personality. You are behaving in a status particular role, but your central organization is so different. Okay. So basically he thinks something peculiar to unique to individual, that is central. There is something superficial that can be altered, that can be changed, and there is culture. Basically, he is looking in terms of an axis or in terms of levels of influence. So this one way of doing it. So basically what they did was, they included all these thinkers. Whenever they had something to talk about the link between the culture and the personality in variety of ways. All of them come under culture and personality. So if you have to write more on culture and personality, you can include all these things because these are all the ways. Linton talked about levels and Corner talked about basic personality and how the institutions are integrated, and somebody else talked about modal personality, and then somebody about culture itself is having a pattern. So you have around 5 people, and then some more people included under national character studies. Okay. And whenever you are doing, remember, pay attention to the methods. What are the methods of Cora Du Bois? Model personality, how did she arrive at? Okay. So that's about methods. And then what is the field work? Okay. In the case of Benedict also, what did she study? And Benedict, okay, and Mead, what did she study and what is it that she borrowed from others? For example, in one, she borrowed from what she studied. So pay attention to how the thinker is getting the data. Fieldwork or others fieldwork, whatever. What are the methods? So all these things become part of your answers. So that is how you should study thought.
Sir, if we are looking to say create a table of all the thinkers from the thought, what could be the column headers? Like what did they study?
Why do you want to create a table? It depends upon the question.
Just to revise later on to have a.
Okay, fine. Thank you. First of all, when? You can write when. What year? What do they? Okay, and then inspiration. Inspiration. Who are their mentors? Who are their mentors? Okay, and then where did they do field work? Where did they do field work? What societies? And books written. Books written. And then conclusions. Conclusions. And whom did they influence? Whom did they influence? And the limitations of their methods and contribution. Contribution. And then I can give you one more examination tip where all you can use them. Always in the examination, you after reading, just think about where you can use them. Not just when the question on them is asked. No. Where can you use? For example, on fieldwork, you can use Malinowski and Mead, like that. Controversy. So what are the questions and where all you can use?
Their methods used.
Thought, if you do thought, you can use it many places. It's a huge advantage. Please.
Their methods used could also be a call.
Exactly. Methods used. What are the methods used? We'll have a separate class on methods along with social students. So that's why I'm not doing now. Methods. Participant observation, fieldwork. And then another thing is, what is the theoretical orientation? Freud, Durkheim, Weber, Marx. What are the sociology connections or psychology connections? Freud is psychology connection. Weber, Marx, Durkheim is sociology connection. So, who are the people who inspired them and whom did they inspire? It's a very good question. Thank you. I mean, these are the dimensions around which you can think of a thinker. And then another thing we are doing is that contemporary examples. To this thinker, what kind of contemporary examples we can add? You can do, I believe you can do really well. Our understanding is far more refined, far more refined. It depends on you. Depends on the way you carry it out. If you write just like that and then they evaluate your answer on the basis of somebody's notes, that's what I think examiners are doing. You will do poorly. Okay. So there is